So let us go first into the history of medicine. According to the history of medicine, it began in Egypt with Imhotep I. Then it came down to Mr. Hippocrates, and it filtered down to Mr. Claudius Galen. So with Hippocrates in the year of 365 BC to 1729, Claudio Galeno, the Italian. These three men, Imhotep, Hippocrates, and Claudio Galeno, had something in common. They all used the same substance. They all followed the same platform. They took the same position. Because during that period of time, that time in history, naturally, there were not in existence at that time the chemicals that we are presented with today. They were only plants. But the history shows that they cured every disease known to man. So if this is true, then what happened between that time and now that things seem to be so difficult? Instead of us being useful in eliminating those that are present, new ones are cropping up every day, telling us that, again, the goal line is receding faster than we could run. Could we afford to continue on the path of the past? Why should we take a chance when the past has not served us well? Are we aware of the percentage of elasticity that the body could really admit or even afford? Stretching. How far could we stretch the human body? By stretching, we mean stressing the human body to cause it to be in the state of disease. No, we don't know that. We don't know how much we have damaged ourselves because we have not been educated as to what we should have been doing, what we should be eating. We have not been educated in that area. So therefore it becomes very difficult now. But even though difficult, as I said, everything seemed to be easy in deciphering and analyzing once we put into motion that part of us that the philosophers try to deny, the part they call common sense. Common sense tells us that if Hippocrates, Imhotep, and Claudio Galeno, not necessarily in that order, but the three men used herbs and that they were successful in reversing disease, what happened now? Not only have we failed as far as being effective in helping others to relieve themselves of disease, we have compounded and added to it using the herbs that we are using. What do I mean? It seems to be a contradiction. Because if Mr. Imhotep I, Claudio Galeno, and Hippocrates use herbs, and herbalists today are using herbs, why aren't they as successful as Claudio Galeno and the rest? That is the common sense part of it. If they cure, we should. Why aren't we? Well, we were removed from the rhythm of life. We were removed from the path that helps us understand those things that are natural from those things that are unnatural. Because if those three doctors use these herbs 2,000 years ago and was successful, we in modern times should be even more successful than they were. Because we always attribute time and development, science, to knowledge. But the fact of the matter is, we are falling short. We are falling short because the herbs that Imhotep, Hippocrates, and Galen used are not the herbs that are being considered today as far as healing is concerned. What is the difference? There's a big difference. Remember what we said on the onset, that we were not prepared for the journey of healing as we thought we were. We were not prepared, because today we find that the herbalists are using comfrey, they are using chamomile, they are using golden seal, peppermint, aloe vera, and many, 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 many more that are all hybrids. They all are artificial. That is the difference. How could I, Sebi, expect for my brothers and my sisters who practice the art of healing, using herbs where the molecular structure is incomplete because they are artificial, to understand that when the very school that was attended support that position? Oh, it becomes difficult, because now our brothers and sisters, not only in Africa, the United States, the Caribbean, also in Central America, are using hybrid plants. What happened to the uses of the natural herbs? Something must have gone wrong. Something must have taken place to divert us away from this path. Well, something did happen. The healer was educated. The healer cannot be educated but from one source, Mother Nature, Pachamama, as she called in certain levels and certain cultures. Pachamama could only be responsible for educating us in the art of healing, no other entity or philosophy, because all the philosophies have failed. Like, for instance, the philosophy of using comfrey to strengthen your bones only adds starch and acid to our system and compound that particular problem. The other is that I could drink wheatgrass juice, carrot juice, beet juice, and receive from that nutrition. That is impossible. Why? Because they're all artificial. Wheatgrass juice contains sugar and starch, two of the greatest enemies of the human body. But our brothers and our sisters in New York definitely recommend wheatgrass juice with pride. What you mean? This is chlorophyll. I agree with the position of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is one of the most effective and quickest way to heal the human body. But the chlorophyll would have to come from a natural base, and wheat is not a natural product of life. So therefore, the end product of wheat would necessarily be an acid one, and that is the subject, acidity versus alkalinity. Acidity has but one purpose. Acidity enters the human body to destroy cells, to cause cell erosion. Alkalinity, on the contrary, alkalinity comes to support life and to maintain electricity. So, a hybrid plant opposed to a natural plant, and we would use two. we would use the kalawala, which comes from this part of the world. It's a natural plant, it's a spore plant. The molecular structure is complete, deeming it electrical. Not so for comfrey, golden seal, and the rest. They are hybrid, meaning that they were made in a laboratory. Being made in a laboratory, naturally, it has to fall short. Because to titrate two things in a laboratory, you need a chemical. In other words, if you have to bring two plants together that ordinarily would not have joined each other's through chemical affinity, forced together is what makes things hybrid. You have to use a chemical to bind them. If man could make an artificial plant to equal in production, to equal in value as that which is natural, then man says that he is God. Impossible. The human body is a natural one. The cells are electrical. The human body shows the ability to move, to produce motion. And there is nothing on the planet that produces motion that is non-electrical. There must be necessarily the presence of electricity. A hybrid plant is non-electrical. Why? Because a man made it. If man could make an electric plant, then he's saying he's God. He could make something to complement the human body. That is impossible. We don't even want to go there. So we see now that the reason why we have failed to complement simply because we were not prepared for the journey. As for myself, I didn't prepare myself for the journey. I was prepared. And why do I say that? Because I had listened and read many books, from Ivan Kirkikov, the Russian, Alma Hutchins, the Canadian, to Mr. Christopher, the American, Jethro Kloss, the American, and many, Jeronimo Rodriguez from Brazil. He wrote a book, Las Plantas Curan, Plant Cure. I have read many books, Spanish and English. And out of those books, healing is absent. So now, it was necessary for the Usha Research Institute to take the position of common sense. That if Hippocrates cured, Galen cured, then we should cure. In our research, we found that there it were. Our brothers and sisters were not aware that natural plants are electrical. They do not live through the process of photosynthesis. Theirs is photovoltaic, which deems it electrical. Why should it be electrical? It should be electrical. If the human body is electrical, then the nourishment should also be electrical. But we find today that our educators, our religious leaders, our leaders and followers indulges in the consumption of acid substance, then seeking this thing we call peace. No. Peace could only be attained when one is married to the cosmic procession. And you show that you have divorced yourself from it when you drink carrot juice, when you eat carrot cake, when you eat beans. All of the beans that are made were made in England by Menlo. He was a Jesuit priest. And about the carrot, well, Nova showed us that they were made in Holland. And they were made by joining the Queen Anne lace, which is known as the yarrow, and the wild yam to make the carrot. Here we find our leaders and healers recommending to us that we eat carrot cake and drink carrot juice, eat bean pies. Could you imagine? Sure, we could imagine. Remember what we said. We have been divorced from that which is natural and placed in that which is unnatural. That makes it extremely difficult. So as the Usha Research Institute presents its position, we are well aware that the limitation that exists among our people is so vast that we have to be careful in selecting speeches of various kinds, presentations of, on the other hand, of all kinds of presentation. We have to show examples. Examples that I find to be unnecessary, probably for me, because I suppose that I was given the privilege to at least listen. If I had not listened, I would not be able to offer that which we offer. I had to listen. And in listening, I am talking about not only an individual mouth, but Mother Nature. Mother Nature talks the loudest. I had to listen. And in listening, we saw all of the above. So the Usha Research decided to put compounds together that would definitely hit the core of this thing we call disease. We just didn't want to make products that we read in other books and give that to you, making recommendation using peppermint. We know at the Usha Research that when someone uses peppermint, it is only because they had not done the research themselves. They are relying on the research of others. That is the danger.